right. We have with us the great OG from Bridge Payments. Man, the growth of Bridge is incredible, and I'm sure you are a very busy man. I really, you've been in e-commerce for so long. Before we even get started, let's just give me a background on you.
Yeah, can you just confirm if you can hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see you.
Perfect,
Looking good.
perfect. Thank you so much. It's always like crazy when like people go and like, how do I pronounce your name? And like, yeah, don't bother. Like it's fine. Thank you so much for having me here. I wouldn't want to spend too much time. Yeah, with Bridge is crazy, totally. I've been in the e-commerce for like 8, 9 years. Generally in some small scales, then I've been in the drop shipping, and then I've been in the private labels, and then I've been in software as a services, and I was like through all the other of the different formats. I was basically serving the e-commerce industry, and in the past like a year and a half, like the biggest problem that we're seeing in the e-commerce with people and the merchants and the users and the sellers worldwide, there are like three main problems. It's the advertising, it's the payment, and it's the regulations. And we sit
Yeah.
down and like, okay, how are we going to solve this? And we started making Bridge. I thought it was going to be faster because I come from a tech and marketing background where everything is fast. In the fintech, nothing is fast, everything is slow, everything is big, everything needs double review. But yeah, I'm happy to say that like Bridge is a very simple payment processing solution made for e-commerce people. We wanted to take that small niche of merchants that have very specific problems and to solve them. And basically my topic here today is like payment processing in the e-commerce. And it's not, so I just have to like put a disclaimer: Bridge is not just for the e-commerce. We support all the other formats and stuff, but somehow because we are recognized in the industry and we've been dealing with so much stuff, e-commerce is like 80% of all the guys who are on it. It's still in the invite only phase. I don't know how are we going to serve all the people. It's going to be live in September, probably like mid of September for everyone. Currently, we're just inviting friends, family, and fools, and the people who actually stumble upon there. But yeah, the thing is, what I wanted to share with the community today is like because what I saw while we were building this, because I like to listen down people and I like to sit down with people and who are tomorrow going to be my users, and I want to listen to them. And we got tons of feedback, ton of cool stuff. And what I realized is that tons of people know payments on a very basic level, and that's like tremendous. You're making like 1.5 to 2.2 mil per month and you still end up with some like very basic mistakes. So I wanted to cover this up. So in order not to waste too much time, like we're starting the presentation.
I'll let you take it away really quick if you just want to hit that hide button on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah,
just
for
so
sure.
that we don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so
Awesome. All right.
basically it is the terminology, it's how payment processors work. And basically, these are all the stuff when you come here and when you see a payment processor and you get like tons of stuff like, what do you do? What do you know? What is the difference between payment gateway and the payment processor? What is the acquirer? What is the issuer? What is rolling reserve? Why do I have holds? Holds are just so big of a problem for the e-commerce merchants in 2021. What is like the different payment structure, how you can actually structure your payment plan with your PSP provider, so whether you're going to be on the IC plus or on the flat or on the retainer. So those are all like stuff when you actually dive deep in the payments, and like average merchant doesn't know this, and average merchant doesn't want to be bothered with it. And what we actually tried to let me just see why my presentation is lacking. So there are basically like some of the stuff people need to understand, and like depending on your business, like I'm talking about e-commerce now, but first mistake people make when they actually start choosing payment provider is they go to the most commonly known one, and they go there and they register like it is just some kind of like a third party tool, like it's some kind of marketing tool. Guys, it isn't. You have to know what your business model is, what do you do, and based on the nature of your business, there are good solutions and there are less good solutions for your case. I'm going to take a very brief example. Everybody is known and familiar with Stripe. Stripe is probably by far the best technology in the industry out there, no doubt, 101, the best provider. But Stripe is basically, they built their reputation on the digital products and subscription businesses. And when you go to Stripe, you see that phenomenal technology, great tech, easy API every developer loves to work with. But on the other side, because Stripe is the hyper aggregator or the payment facilitator, as we call it in the industry, Stripe is very risk intolerant. And I see tremendous amount of people from the e-commerce who are on Stripe and they're like, yo, OG, I have a hold, yo, Stripe banned my account, yo, this, yo, that. Well, first of all, you need to realize that there are different ways how the Stripe and other PSPs operate. So first of all, this is how Stripe operates. So Stripe is one like common solution where you have one bank account or one bank flow that in the industry we call MID, which is basically a merchant account. But Stripe doesn't provide you your own merchant account, so you're not responsible for it. And of course, a lot of stuff coming from that. You actually have sub-merchant accounts. So imagine Stripe having one big bank and all the balances rolling into that, and you're just like a sub balance on that account. And Stripe is very, very clear on the type of merchants they prefer. They don't like risk. They don't like merchants who are selling like in multi currencies, and they don't like people who can have big impact on the flow because they are so on point. So when you register, you go there and 3 clicks, you're there, you fill out the KYC, you're ready to roll. But in the e-commerce, especially if you try to scale, you actually like when you cross that milestone from the first let's say a milestone to the second, when you're growing exponentially, like from 15K to month to 50, from 50 to 150K, like 9 times out of 10 you're going to have some hold, or some of your balances are going to get freezed in better case scenarios, or in the worst case scenarios you are basically going to get like freezed for the longer run, and you're not going to be able to process stuff. And then many people like they're mad at the PSP, in this case Stripe. But to be honest, like it's not Stripe's fault. Stripe is very like clear who they love and what do they support. And since they are the PayFac, the payment aggregator, and in this specific example I'm using Stripe, they are the hyper aggregator because they're one of the biggest. They are responsible and they are directly in the money flow, and they just don't like risk. And I see tons of guys reaching to us and they're like, I'm making 500K per month and Stripe just freezed my account. Don't get me wrong, 500K per month, that's how much Stripe makes with Uber for 10 minutes. You are a mosquito in their eyes. And it's logical. They're going to protect their business model because it proved to be so good. But if you are a guy who has some risk indicators, and we're going to talk about risk indicators in next slides, you should probably consider whether Stripe or any other, I'm just using Stripe for this example, whether that is the PSP for you, because there are different PSPs, and PSP is actually a payment service provider that's basically better for your specific needs. And why am I saying this? So you see how Stripe operates this way. So you're just one of the accounts in their master balance, and basically they're directly in the cash flow, they are directly responsible for the money, and they are basically evaluating you as a risk because they have to deal with fraudulent transactions and money losses and all the stuff. So they are very risk intolerant. But there are also other type of PSPs who are acting. Sorry, this is the actual aggregator, but there are basically other PSPs that are operating as an independent routers, or they are actually combining multiple variants, such as Bridge. For example, Bridge works on both ways, so we can actually we actually are a financial institution in the UK, so we can actually have the status of the facilitator. But also, what we're able to do is, if you're a bigger merchant who has and who requires a bit of like the setup in order to water up your risk and in order to actually like give you some kind of custom setup because of the nature of your business, then we actually can combine multiple financial institutions. And that's really important for you to know. Why? Well, we're going to stick with the e-commerce. E-com guys have one problem, and that's delivery. So if you're into e-commerce, and if you're serving like businesses who if you are serving businesses who are into e-commerce, or if you're an e-commerce brand on your side, e-commerce businesses in general have a big problem. They are very risky, and the number one risk indicator for them is the delivery time. As you can see, what we're seeing from the industry, like Facebook is now implementing the customer feedback score, and number one for the bad feedback scores are delivery times. The classical dropshipping, some of the biggest industry giants are built on, like Shopify, or Shopify, Stripe, something like that. The classical dropshipping, I remember what dropshipping was like a couple of years ago. You could actually buy a product and ship it like directly from the manufacturer, and you can have a delivery date of like 15, 20, 25 days. Nobody cares. Today, if you have like that number of that shipping time, it's a problem. And that's a risk, because the customers are becoming more smart, they're becoming lucrative, and they just want better service. And when you actually have this, and when you have bad customers because they're unhappy with something, then your chargebacks and your customer feedback is becoming like bigger, and the problems are increasing. And in the payments eyes, you are becoming a risky merchant. And trust me, everybody who is in the payments, and especially if they are like working as the aggregator, they don't like risk. So payment industry is like just avoiding the risk. So the whole idea is for you to structure your payment systems using the payment service providers in order to just water down the risk, so that you can actually scale and keep that, let's say, setup in place, whether you have 10, 100, or 1K or 10K buyers. And basically, this is the first thing you need to do. And we're going to close. I basically jumped through the chapters, but this is the first chapter. Know what do you do. It's not the same whether you're selling like clothes, because clothes is a bad example, because clothing industry in the e-commerce can be either like pure vanilla white, or it can be very risky because it has multiple variants. But for example, if you sell books is very like non-risky stuff. You have a book, somebody buys it, you send it, and if you have good shipping times, like you don't have any like problem with a book. You receive a book is nice, you're going to read it, you're happy as a customers. But if you are, for example, what we are seeing in Bridge on the merchants that are requesting the access, like some industries of the newer generation, like CBD or hemp, or I don't know how it's called in the US, in Europe is CBD, those guys are having tremendous problems in finding the right PSPs, because the traditional ones, they don't want to work with them, which is kind of not good, because CBD as an industry is very regulated. And the CBD is like one of the fastest growing e-commerce sub-industries out there. So if you're a CBD brand, you're not going to be able to use Stripe. You're not going to be able to use some of the biggest providers, and you probably shouldn't, because you, as that industry sub-vertical, you have different problems. You have compliance problems, you need to be certified, you need to have a fast delivery, and you need to de-riskify. And of course, you need to offer different payment methods and different stuff. And that's why I'm going to conclude the first chapter. When you actually start choosing the payment provider, you need to look in multiple aspects. So I started this like presentation with like people go and choose the PSP they know and they heard about, which is good, but it's not the best. When you're making a decision what payment provider, especially in the e-commerce, you want to choose, you want to know where are you selling, who are you selling to, and how risky are you for that PSP? Because there are PSPs who are very specialized in operating in high risk. And trust me, those bigger fees are going to cost you way less than the hurdle you're going to have with the big traditional ones, because they are not going to serve you properly because they're not made for it. So this is the first stuff. The second stuff I want to mention is we have a very big data on our own in Bridge, and what we're seeing is the actual offered payment methods. Now, this is always like, this is nothing new. I'm not inventing the hot water, but what I'm fascinated how many people are not personalizing the payment method for the customer. Like we have some guys who have like specific, and they have like they're selling in different markets, which is always like the challenge, because global market brought us tremendous possibility, but there are even like double a number of regulatives you have to do. So if you're selling combined in the US and Europe, it's a problem. And just Europe, for example, have a lot of alternative payment methods. For example, in Germany, a lot of online sales are happening through the PayPal. In Poland, Personal Navy 24 is probably the most famous alternative payment method. And I, as somebody who's offering a payment service, PSP service, I'm stunned by how many e-commerce guys who are on a big level are still not adapting and offering dedicated and personalized payment methods to their buyers. It's the whole deal, like the whole idea in if you're making business, if you're running business in 2021, you have to be customer centric. You have to be customer obsessed with the customer, because that's where we are in the global economy at the moment. Like we are currently, if you're a service provider, you have to focus on the cherry on top. And if you know that, for example, in Germany, the PayPal is around like 25% of the payment choice, why are you not having PayPal? Or if you know that if you're selling in Latin, so in Latin America, and in Latin America, there are tons of different alternative payment methods, like if that's one of your main markets, how are you not offering your payment methods on that store? Because like isn't it not logical to adapt to what your buyers want? And basically what we are always suggesting to the people is to reinvent. You can't go, like, you can't be blunt. You can't be the one setup that worked like a couple of years ago is not going to work. Adjust, grow, personalize. And this is actually like how one of the checkouts, this is actually a screenshot from one of our other software as a service tools. This is actually how a good checkout should look like. So you have to have a checkout that has both credit cards and traditional payment methods, but try to personalize the payment methods, in your PSP should support them based on where you're selling. And also, when you actually do that, try to make it dynamic. Now, what is the dynamic checkout? Dynamic checkout is something like if you have one brand that is selling in the US and you're selling in Germany and you're selling in Mexico. So adjust your checkout, personalized checkout for the buyer from US and from the buyer in Germany and for the buyer in Mexico. And if the buyer comes from Germany, offer him the German payment methods along with the CC and all the other ones that are commonly known. But if a buyer comes from Mexico, yeah, okay, let the checkout automatically adjust in order to personalize the offer, because that's how you actually take more and that's how you're going to make more. And we actually did some data. I don't have too much, I don't still have that number of metrics in order to be very certain, but we are at the moment doing like how much are the stores who are utilizing personalized payment methods making more than the stores that don't have the personalized payment methods. And I'm like, when we actually finish that research, I will be happy to share with Derek and with the community, because that's what it's all about. But I can tell you one thing: find a PSP who can actually be flexible. payment providers and payment processors are old school companies. Like they are usually like corporate old school companies coming from big banking systems, and like the industry is changing so fast, and those industries are not changing that much. And I see tons of traditional PSPs who are still talking the same talk, and they are still offering you, they're still giving you a setup fees and retainers and minimal fees. Like that's so 2017. We're in 2021. You as a PSP have to be fast, you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable. You can't have support on email. Nobody wants to have support on email. You have to have intercom, and your response rate has to be under 2 minutes. And basically, when you are a merchant who is looking for the PSP, have that in mind. If the PSP is not flexible enough to provide you with the tech and with the solutions to serve your modern 21st century 2021 needs, then you should probably look somewhere else. What is the this is I just wanted to take cover of the methods, and now there are models. What I see and what I'm seeing in the e-commerce, because my let's say topic today is just for the e-commerce vertical, which is hard for me to do because we as a PSP serve not just e-commerce, we serve everybody. But basically, e-commerce is somehow the biggest. What I'm seeing in the e-commerce is like different models that are emerging and that are like living their own life, and they are like somehow transforming. For example, like a couple of years ago, subscription-based business, you knew for Dollar Shave Club and you knew like two more. And now like every on every corner I see like new e-commerce subscription business. Also, marketplace and mini marketplaces are booming. They are like really like jumping through through the through the water, and I want to see where this is going to go. So the regular setup that you have as a merchant is going to look probably something like this. And of course, this is a shameless plug, because this is the infographic I already have. I didn't make a new one. So basically, the way it works, like you have a gateway and you're a seller company and you're the merchant. And in the traditional way, you would probably have to have the acquirer in the back that has technical integration with your gateway, or that gateway is the processor in the same time. So you don't need to shift through the banks. And then you have your store that again has to be compatible with the gateway. And now you have buyers, and basically this is the standard model. Now I want you to look at this picture really carefully, because this is how the payment gateways work 20 years ago. Now you have me as a payment, as a PSP, as a payment provider. I have to be able both to offer you multiple financial institutions, and you as a merchant should probably realize how to actually use those multiple financial institutions that a PSP can offer. So for example, if I can translate this into the common words, you come and you're, for example, selling on multiple markets. And now, why would you sell in one currency and settle in one bank account if that bank, for example, is in the US and their commercial terms are very bad for the Mexico or for the Asia or for the Europe? No, the proper way to do it is to come to the PSP, lay over your market and where you're selling, and basically create a personalized map of financial institutions where you can actually get better rates and avoid cross-border fees and have better acceptance rate. Because the gateway, that's what gateway does. Gateway is communicating with multiple financial institutions, or if it's a processor, then he's a financial institution. And basically, what you need to do is you need to realize that nothing is static anymore. Again, I'm gonna speak with Stripe, and probably I'm not 100% with this, but on a regular model, Stripe works. They are the processor and they are the financial institution. And when you open Stripe, you get one balance, which is fine. You're selling in US dollars, you get settled in US dollars, that's fine. But what happens, for example, when you are selling in dollars and in euros and in rupees and in rubies, and then you have those bad currency conversions? from one currency to another, and then you have like the bad acceptance flows from those sides, because basically these markets are very different than the US market, etc., etc. So this model that you're seeing is the very simplistic way how things work. What you're looking to do is to have a technology, and I'm just going to use my mouse here to actually show you. So you want to have the technology from where you can connect your store, or I'm sorry, I just moved. You want to use the tech to connect your store, but then you want that tech, in case the payment service provider, to be able to connect you with multiple financial routes, and to actually be able to offer you multiple different acceptance rates, acceptance policies, multiple currencies, multiple balances, in order to de-riskify your flows, to de-risk your actual settlements, to make your currencies better, to avoid cross-border currencies and stuff like that. Also, there are a few stuff that if you are a merchant in 2021, this is the stuff I see with that a lot of merchants are having problem. So, for example, you're a merchant and you have multiple brands, or you are a seller and you have multiple different brands, or you are a seller and you have one brand but you have multiple locations in multiple markets. For example, let's say we can use Adidas. And in these specific cases, traditional like merchants are struggling to find the technology that can actually give you like one account, but open all of those brands as your, let's say, brands. So not different accounts, not sub accounts, stuff like that, but open your like different brands, and then for each brand to look it as an account, but actually to avoid all the bureaucracy and all the stuff. And this is what we were actually trying with Bridge to do. So you have account, and then you can have multiple like brands, whether you have different brands or whether you have the franchises, whatever you want to do. But your PSP, when you're choosing, for example, if you are in this specific situation, you should probably look to find the technology and the payment provider or the payment processor that is going to be able to give you the technology. Of course, technology is always, but also who's going to be able to onboard all of your brands and just like structure them under your account and under your company, while keeping the setup and the flexibility on the brand level and not on the account level. And this is tremendous problem that merchants are seeing. That's probably one of the best, one of the biggest like aha moments when merchants come to us and they ask like, okay, why is Bridge so cool and what differs you from others? And then we actually sit down and explain them. And then this is the aha moment. So if you are this merchant, you should probably work at this. And the third model is something Stripe, because I'm using Stripe, for example. That's something everybody know. Even my mother knows what Stripe is. Like, marketplaces. Stripe is really good for it, but marketplaces have a different problem. And basically, marketplaces have they have two problems. First of all, they have legal problem, so you have to be a specific structured entity to be. But on the other side, PSP that covers marketplaces should be able to onboard you as a marketplace provider where you are. If you remember from the beginning of my lecture, Stripe works on a big balance, and then all of the merchants who are actually onboarded with Stripe, they are actually like sub balances, which is good because it's fast, and it's bad because like it's like one pool of money, and then like they are paying you out from one pool of money. But basically, if you're a marketplace merchant, and I am seeing tremendous increase in marketplace, in like small marketplaces or very niched marketplaces, if you're a marketplace and you're looking for a PSP, be sure to look at the technology, of course, and be sure to look at somebody who can actually cover the setup where they can onboard you as a master admin merchant and give you a possibility to actually open you sub slots and sub balances for all your vendors. Because if you're a marketplace, you have a vendor, especially if you are directly in the financial flow. If you're just as the advertiser, then it's not a problem. But if you are actually pooling and balancing money, you will have to have some financial regulations. But look for the PSP who is going to understand that and actually provide you with everything in order to automate it, because this is the hardest part, and like there are a couple of technologies who are offering that. I pretty much assume that I'm like blowing up my time, so I'm gonna just fast forward with this.
You've got a couple minutes, but however you feel.
Yeah, acquirers versus PayFac. I'm just gonna be very quick. If you're working with a PayFac such as Stripe, such as PayPal, they are very risk intolerant. If you have holds, man, you're in problem, but that's not their fault. It's yours because you have a risky business and you should probably choose a backup payment provider or maybe switch to payment provider. I know a guy who has great payment provider, this one, and basically like try to actually get your personal setup. Regarding legal and compliance stuff, well, this is not a politically correct info chart, but basically a lot of stuff. Sorry, a lot of times people are actually like evaluating PSPs, but the main rules are actually given by the Visa and the Mastercard, and we have to play by them rules. Cross border, this is something like we're gonna get in the topic pretty bad. But basically, I see tons of people losing tons of money because they don't know what the cross border is. It's not the same when you are a US company and you're charging the European card. Every time you do that, you're having a cross border fee. And on some PSPs, you have a processing fee, you have extra interchange fee, and you have extra transaction fee. I'm not gonna name those processors, but you all know them. So with Bridge, what we did is we created the setup where we can actually open your multiple balances and actually like process from different places so that like you can avoid cross-border. And trust me, you're gonna save tons of money with it. And basically, in order to get this fast, I just want to conclude stuff. This is really important. Whoever is after me, sorry for taking your slot. Fraud and risk. Like with the beginning of the COVID-19 horror, fraud and risk basically grew around 300%. So if you're an online seller and you're not using some kind of fraud prevention or risk prevention, you're in deep trouble. And the biggest problem I'm seeing in the industry and the biggest problem I'm seeing with the merchants is when you come to the payment processor, you opened up the account and everything is nice and you see all the charts. And then you have like some kind of fraud protection and stuff like that, and everything is nice and you click all the stuff. But basically, you don't know nothing about it because fraud and risk is that's a very serious topic, and people from like engineers who are specialized in it should be working on it, not you as a merchant who probably don't know stuff I'm talking about. And like probably 50% of you guys are asking like, what is this like guy with a beard talking? Be sure to just ask your payment service provider, should you work on the fraud, on the risk, or they have the tool, or they can actually help you set up. With Bridge, we have two ways. You can actually, if you're using your own fraud management tool, we're cool with that. But if you're not, we actually have our own fraud and risk team, and we're actually handling by you by default. And I think that's one of the best values for the e-commerce people who come to us, because we're gonna deal with all that stuff for you. You don't have to worry about it, and you're actually gonna be protected. And this is basically the key takeaway for now. If you're in e-commerce and if you are trying to scale, if you are like a dropshipper or you have a private label or whatever you're using at the moment, if you're like handling, if you're dealing with holds, if you're dealing with constant check-ins, maybe, but just maybe, you picked your payment processor based on the clout and not based on what you need. So if you need to get any takeaway from this lecture, that is know your model. If you are like having longer delivery times, if you are like in some regulated industry, if you come from a risky like location, know your model. Stripe is great. I use Stripe for 10 different projects, but Stripe is not for everything. Uh, know your buyer. Where is your buyer coming from? Offer the payment methods, like personalize, adapt, be flexible. You're going to make much more money with it. Focus on the infrastructure. Always invest. As somebody who is actually selling you a payment provider, I can tell you, invest in your infrastructure business, invest in private label, invest in faster delivery times, because that's going to save you a lot of trouble with money and the processing. Have a custom setup. I cannot speak about that. I don't, in 2021, I don't know why everybody go click on 3 buttons and now they're processing payments. You're losing tons of money with it. You're basically like one chat away, and somebody from Bridge is going to sit down and talk to you and listen to you and tell you what is the best setup for you. You're going to save tons of money and you're going to get protected. So don't settle for the one size fit. In 2021, everything should be personalized. Take advantage of the global coverage, reduce the cross-border. No need for that. The industry is too mature and the tech is good. You can actually, even like if you're under 100K per month, there are solutions. We do that. We can cover you and invest in risk management, because keep your payment processing safe. It's hell out there on the internet. Please just be careful and invest in longevity. Thank you.
Thanks so much, OG. Man, there was a lot that you talked about there, and I won't lie, you got even a little too heavy for me, and I was like, this is interesting. But it all comes together here, and I think you're absolutely right. And the way that you've structured cross-border payments is absolutely brilliant. I have seen this done with in like consumer payment processing. I forget what company it was, but they figured out how to kind of handle international transaction fees. Oh, Wise, TransferWise. But I don't think I've ever seen it brought to payment processors in the way that you kind of described it here. So for everybody listening, especially if you're in an at-risk kind of industry, I recommend checking out Bridge at bridgepayments.io. And you can tell them that eCommerce Tech sent you over there. I love also that you're giving personal handholding to everybody to make sure that they have the right custom setup for them. I think that's super important. And no worries on time. We're actually more back on track now than we were, because we were running a little bit ahead of schedule. So perfect. With that said, thanks so much. We're going to move right into our next session.
Thank you so much. If anybody has a question, be sure to reach out to me. I'm open to basically solve all your problems that I know answer to. Derek, thank you so much for your time, and be careful.
Yeah, thanks. Perfect.